The air shimmered with heat above the Wyoming plains, the kind that made a man feel every breath burn through his chest. Jack Redden tugged the brim of his hat lower as he mended the fence line near Dry Creek. His horse, Boone, stood tethered a few yards away, tail flicking lazily at the flies. The day had been long, and the sun was nowhere near done burning him alive. Still, there was work to do, and out here, no one else to do it. He wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his arm, squinting toward the distant hills. Nothing but dust, sagebrush, and the endless whisper of the wind. He stooped to hammer another nail into the fence post when a sound cut through the stillness, a muffled cry, faint but sharp enough to slice through the hum of cicadas. Jack froze, the hammer halfway in the air. He turned his head slowly, listening. Nothing for a moment. Then again. Softer, but there. A human sound, not animal. He straightened, his heart beginning to thud in his chest. He untied Boone's reins and mounted up, urging the horse toward the sound. The dry grass brushed his boots as he rode down toward the creek bed. The closer he got, the more certain he was that what he heard wasn't an echo or his imagination. Someone was hurt. As he pushed past a line of willows, he saw movement near the water. At first, it looked like a bundle of cloth tangled in reeds. Then the shape shifted, and a faint moan reached his ears. Jack swung down from his saddle and strode forward, his boots sinking into the soft mud. Lying there, half in the water, was a woman. Her dress was torn, the hem soaked in the creek. Her face was pale under the grime, and her hands clutched her thigh tightly, blood seeping between her fingers. "Ma'am," Jack called, keeping his voice low, careful not to startle her. Her eyes fluttered open. For a moment, she looked right through him, dazed and frightened. "It hurts. Down there too," she whispered, her voice breaking. Jack dropped to his knees beside her. "Easy now," he said. "Don't try to move. Let me take a look." She nodded faintly, her fingers trembling as she released her leg. Jack took out his bandana, already damp from sweat, and dabbed gently at the wound. When he pulled the fabric aside, his stomach tightened. A deep cut ran along her upper thigh, jagged and raw. Blood had crusted along the edges, turning the skin dark. He dipped the bandana into the creek and wiped away more dirt, trying to get a clearer look. That's when he saw something else. Thin, angry lines circling both ankles. Rope burns. He froze, staring for a heartbeat longer than he should have. Whoever this woman was, she hadn't just fallen. Someone had tied her, maybe dragged her. "What happened to you?" he asked quietly. Her lips quivered. "They took everything," she whispered. "The horse, my bag, I tried to run." Her words caught, and tears filled her eyes. "They laughed. Then they left me here." Jack swallowed hard, his jaw tightening. He'd seen cruelty before. Outlaws who'd kill for whiskey money, men who'd lost their souls somewhere between one empty town and the next. But this felt different. This was deliberate. He tore a strip from his sleeve and soaked it in the creek before pressing it firmly against the wound. She flinched and gasped in pain, her hand gripping his arm. I know, he murmured. "It's gotta be done. You'll bleed out otherwise." She looked up at him, fear and confusion mixing in her eyes. "Who are you?" "Name's Jack Redden," he said. "Got a ranch about 3 miles west. I'll get you there, fix you up proper." I can't move," she whispered. "Then I'll move for you." He slipped one arm beneath her shoulders and another under her knees, lifting her as gently as he could. She was lighter than he expected, her body limp against his chest. Boone snorted softly as Jack approached with his burden. Jack adjusted her in the saddle, keeping one arm around her waist to steady her. Her head fell against his chest, her breath shallow and uneven. He could feel her heartbeat against him, fast, frightened, fading. "Hang on, Clara," he said when she whispered her name, barely audible through the wind. "You're safe now, I promise you that." As they started back toward the ranch, Jack's eyes swept the open plains. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers over the land. He saw no riders, no dust trails, but he could feel something watching, something still out there. Boone's hooves pounded softly over the earth, carrying them through the dying light. Each mile felt heavier than the last. By the time the cabin came into view, Clara was barely conscious, whispering fragments of things he couldn't understand, names, maybe, or prayers. Jack held her tighter, his jaw set. He didn't know who'd done this. But he knew one thing for certain. Whoever they were, they'd left their work unfinished. And that was a mistake he meant to fix. Rain fell in hard, slanting sheets by the time Jack reached the ranch. Thunder rolled across the plains like distant cannon fire, and Boone's hooves splashed through the mud as he galloped toward the dim glow of the cabin lantern. Jack swung down, cradling Clara in his arms, her weight cold and fragile. Her breathing came in shallow gasps, barely there. He kicked the door open with his boot, and the sound of the storm was swallowed by the quiet warmth inside. He laid her on the kitchen table, sweeping tools and papers aside. Lightning flashed, casting white streaks across the room, and for an instant, her face looked ghostly pale against the dark wood. Jack's hands were already moving, finding clean cloth, lighting another lantern, uncorking the whiskey bottle that had sat untouched since last winter. Her eyelids fluttered as he poured the liquor over the wound. The sharp smell filled the room, and she let out a faint, broken sound. "Easy," he muttered, pressing his palm gently against her shoulder to keep her still. "This'll burn, but it'll clean it." He tore fresh linen into strips, his knife slicing through the fabric with practiced ease. The cut along her thigh had reopened during the ride, and blood pooled beneath her leg. Jack cleaned it carefully, his movements steady despite the storm hammering the roof. He'd patched up injured cattle, even a few men shot during border disputes, but tending to her was different, delicate, almost sacred. Every bruise and scrape seemed to whisper of something cruel done in the dark. When she stirred again, her voice was faint. "It hurts. Down there too." Jack froze. He leaned closer, his tone soft but firm. "Where exactly, Clara?" Her trembling hand drifted toward her hip and stomach. Jack hesitated, then lifted the blanket just enough to see. His breath caught. Her skin was a map of pain. Deep purple bruises spread across her ribs, a few fading yellow with time, others fresh and swollen. There were cuts near her side, shallow but angry, and faint welts down her arm that spoke of rope or whip. He didn't move for a long moment, the thunder outside filling the silence she couldn't. He'd seen the aftermath of bar fights, ambushes, and hard living, but this was the kind of damage a person inflicted when they wanted to break more than just the body. His jaw tightened until it hurt. "You don't have to tell me who did this," he said, his voice low, trembling with contained rage. "But I'm gonna make sure they never do it again." Clara's lips parted, but no words came. Only tears slid silently from the corners of her eyes. Jack swallowed the lump in his throat and reached for the salve jar, working the mixture gently over the bruises. She winced, but didn't pull away. "You're safe here," he murmured. "Ain't no one comin' through that door unless I let him." Her eyes met his, wide, uncertain, but softening. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you help me?" Jack paused. The question hit him harder than he expected. He looked down at his hands, scarred, calloused, the hands of a man who'd done his share of rough things. "Because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't," he said finally. "Too many folks out here look the other way. Not me." He tied the last bandage snugly, wiped her skin dry, and covered her with a clean blanket. The storm outside was losing its fury now, settling into steady rain. Jack pulled a chair beside the table and sat down heavily, his rifle leaning against the wall within reach. For hours, he sat and listened, to her faint breathing, to the slow creak of the cabin, to the water dripping off the roof. Every sound outside made his hand twitch toward the gun, but no one came. When dawn finally touched the horizon, pale and silver, Jack stood and stepped out onto the porch. The air was cold and wet, the smell of rain still strong. He looked toward the east, scanning the distance. That's when he saw them, faint tracks in the mud, leading away from the ranch. Fresh hoofprints. He crouched, pressing his fingers to the ground. 4, maybe 5 horses. They'd passed during the night, circling wide. Watching. Jack rose slowly, his jaw hardening. He turned his gaze back toward the cabin, where Clara slept under his blanket, her breathing finally steady. He felt something shift inside him, a quiet, dangerous promise. "They'll come back," he said under his breath. "And when they do, they'll wish they hadn't." He walked back inside, stoked the fire, and loaded the rifle. The storm had passed, but another was coming, one made of vengeance and dust. And this time, Jack Redden was ready to meet it head-on.